Hello all, I'm Luli Tannett, and my talk is called Applied Philosophy, or Using a Transhumanist Attitude in Philosophy Can Help Solve Real Problems. Transhumanism is the idea that we can use technology to enhance our lives and that we should become super awesome from it. Philosophy also has this power, but no one seems to take this fact seriously. Arguing about inductional bays can be fun, but that's not why we do it. Which ideas we hold affects us. It changes what decisions we make. Good philosophical ideas can lead to rapid technological progress, among other things, and bad philosophy can cause us to stagnate. So, let's take this stuff out of the ivory tower and see how it can be applied. First, we need to know some good philosophy. For the sake of this presentation, and because it's true, I'm going to use critical rationalism. Non-critical rationalists can just convert what I say to their philosophy. The point is just to be aware that philosophy can be used to solve real problems. Non-critical rationalists are also encouraged to read more theory. I think you all pretty much know what critical rationalism is, so I'm just going to kind of go through it quite quickly. Knowledge is created by conjecture and criticism. We are fallible. Knowledge is designed to solve problems. Knowledge comes about by piecemeal changes, and there is objective truth, and by effort we can get closer to it. And David Deutsch also adds to critical rationalism. He says that problems are inevitable, and this is a difference from Popper's critical rationalism to David's.
So David says problems are inevitable. How is it different to what Popper said? What did Popper say about it?
Well, okay, Popper said that we might make mistakes, but David says that we do, and frequently.
Right.
And David also emphasizes that all problems are soluble. I don't think Popper actually said this exactly. And the reason that all problems are soluble is that if you think that there are some problems that are outside reason, where explanations don't work, then that is basically supernaturalism. It's saying that there's a part of thought where reason doesn't apply. And he also emphasized explanation. And lots of scientists don't emphasize this so much and are more about making predictions and so on. Popper actually agreed with this explanation emphasis, but he didn't say it that much. I'll explain a bit about how this philosophy can be and has been applied already. In doing so, I'll elaborate a bit on what the philosophy actually says. Making mistakes. As Popper said, science must begin with myths and the criticism of myths. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone knows this. But not everyone knows what mistakes they're making. Some people fall into pitfalls all the time because they have bad philosophy. For example, this idea that behaviors or ideas can't be changed because they're innate. People mistake parts of their personality as inherent facts about the world that can't be changed. But personality is just ideas. Sometimes the thinking behind this is inexplicit ideas can't be changed, nor explained. People attach things like shyness or their fears or their image of themselves to personality and assume that it's innate, and it becomes part of their identity. And this makes it harder to change, because any changes would be considered not being yourself. But in fact, we change all the time. The whole idea of TCS's common preferences, well, basically, when we are finding common preferences, then we need to change our preferences, to something for everyone. So this is an important part of TCS, that we change our preferences all the time. Or, when needed. And we change our preferences to something better. You are not any more human, or any more you, if you stick with failed ideas. Animals grow by genetic evolution. If they have a gene without the necessary knowledge, that animal dies. Humans can grow in another way. As Popper said, by criticizing our theories, we can let our theories die in our place. In other words, we can change our identity by changing our ideas. Once we have identified a mistake, we are no longer the same person who made the mistake. So likewise, addictions are generally considered as something that you can't help. But physical addictions are just chemicals in the brain. They do not control you. It's up to you to interpret these chemical sensations. You will interpret them through your ideas, just like you interpret any other observation. So this goes back to the critical rationalism thing of we don't just observe, we have to interpret the sense data and so on. Alcohol and drugs and so on don't have complex knowledge of you. They are very stupid. They require you to do the brain work to interpret them. So whenever people completely change their personality, or apparently when they're drunk, and say, oh yeah, it's the alcohol that did it, but the alcohol doesn't know that what being slutty is, or what being silly or whatever. It's just chemicals. Now you may do it subconsciously or inexplicitly, so you don't notice that it's actually you doing the brain work, but it's still down to your own theories. Another thing people think is innate or unchangeable is sexuality. Sexuality is just sexual preferences. People can be attracted to a lot of things, a mind-boggling number of things if you ask the internet. Why is there this huge, apparently disproportionate emphasis placed on whether you're attracted to male or females? The reason is cultural. There is this family value stuff and gender memes that are important to that. There are female memes which are passive and modest and shy, and then male memes that are active and aggressive and confident. This stuff is personality traits. It's not just sexual whatever. There's a lot more mimetic depth to male versus female memes than stuff like being attracted to feet. They can reflect on your personality. World views can be built around it. Feminism, so on. Sex on its own isn't actually that deep. Stuff has been added to it, so it seems more significant in our culture, but it isn't actually fundamental. And yet, people treat it as such. So much so that they think it's impossible to change sexuality, that they can't help who they're attracted to, and that sexuality is genetic and so on and so forth. Yeah, genetic. Liking tentacle monsters must have evolved because the Japanese live close to the sun. Those are because people are good at running had a genetic advantage, so they were sexualized. Furries? You don't want to know. The point is, all of these examples are just different things you can be attracted to. You could be attracted to rubbing against a certain thing or looking at a certain thing. Whether it has a bump or a dip or what color it is and so on are all the same kind of thing, fundamentally. And people frequently change their sexual preference on some of these. They get familiar with their boyfriend's looks and start liking people who look like that. Likewise, people retcon their sexuality. Retcon means retroactive continuity. TV Tropes defines it as reframing past events to serve a current plot need. So people will say stuff like, oh, I was always gay deep down, when they become gay. Because you can't change your sexuality according to the beliefs of this culture. But even the deeper ideas that have become attached to sex, like gender memes, are still just ideas, and so they're perfectly changeable given the right knowledge. It's also very common to mistake stuff like depression or sadness for stuff that is inherent about yourself. People are inclined to think, I'm in a bad mood, or I don't feel like doing stuff to make me happy, or I'm not good enough. But what's really going on here? Why are they in a bad mood? What does it stop them from doing? What is the problem that's making them have these bad feelings? They're not good enough in what way? What is the idea that is stopping them from doing what they want? Now, I would say that depression, just like all of these, they're just ideas. You can think about things in a different way, and you don't need to keep being depressed. These are all ways that people don't take responsibility for their ideas. More specifically, they are making a fundamental philosophical mistake. They don't think that these things are based on ideas, or at least they equivocate. They don't think that reason applies to these ideas. This mistake is problems are not soluble.